Thank you. As I mentioned, right now we're one short of quorum, so we can have discussion, but we can't do any voting.
Okay.
Obviously the minutes will be held advanced till next month. Unless somebody shows up.
Yep.
The speaker's not here. Open discussion about the Arts Commission vision, priorities and role.
I thought there was a whiteboard with a paper in the room and I could find the easel, but I can't find the paper. So in any event,
Can we hook up to a monitor or should we just do it?
just have a conversation. I'll write notes down. I brought some bigger paper
Yeah.
because I write big.
Okay, you're the only ones we were all at the meeting on the 26th, so we all had a lot of feedback from that and we met a lot of different people. And we're supposed to come in with 2 bullet points for what we thought would be beneficial for this committee going forward. And that's where we're at. So I guess we're looking at the bullet points that people had or
Yeah.
ideas around
And
that.
I can certainly follow up with the other commission members that weren't here and just ask them to respond, and then we can gather that up for a more robust conversation at our next meeting.
Hopefully.
But,
I looked at the state Connecticut cultural district program, when we first set these out, one of the things that jumped out to me was what we pretty much talked about at the last meeting too, that you had to hold at least one community input meeting in order for people to learn about the proposed cultural district and goals. So I know we talked about possibly Survey Monkey to the general public to find out what's out there, what we can do, and the other thing would be to actually schedule a date and location and figure out where we go and actually have a meeting with, all the people from the different cultural alliances to.
Yeah, I think a community conversation around the arts would be helpful, and I think probably after the first of the year, you really can't coordinate anything in the short window before you get into the holidays, and the holidays you lose people, so really, other than it being, weather dependent, sometime in the January, February, March timeframe might make sense, as long as, we have a little bit of a skeleton as to what we're talking about. But I think it would be a good idea to have a community conversation in terms of the district. That piece of it, when you have a public conversation about that, you really need to have a proposed geographical district. And you could do both at the same time if you wanted to. And I think, the map of our cultural assets kind of informs a logical district.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a reach to put something together within a couple weeks' time to have all that. But I think the bigger issue is, and I think you guys that participate in the Arts Council convening, you're in good company in some respects, because a lot of newer arts councils and commissions are going through the same growing pains, trying to figure out who they want to be when they grow up, type of thing. And even my conversation this afternoon with Torrington, they're at the same inflection point where they're
But they've
trying
already
to
they have
decide.
an established district.
They did establish a district. And we can learn more about their experience and what that's meant to the town and to the arts community there, but they're also, trying to figure out what is the Arts Commission's role in all this. And, some commissions are engaged in kind of putting together activities, events, programs. Others are playing that coordination, collaboration role. And I see this group more in the latter. We've got a lot of arts organizations that do a lot of good work in terms of programming and providing content. Part of it is building awareness and figuring out how we can support those groups. But I also think, there might be, hopefully it's a larger role, coordination role that we can carve out.
Well, that's actually what I responded to, was the larger role.
Good.
I didn't want to cut you
No,
off.
that's fine. I just thrown out 2 things to begin with. And,
What was the second?
well, both. I mean, possibly a Survey Monkey to find out what we have in the community.
Okay.
So, I mean, we know that we have the list that was given to us and we could definitely get the context there and send the Survey Monkey to them. But then if they have anybody else, they can forward the Survey Monkey to too. I don't
What
know.
would we ask them, Charlie?
Yeah, that's-
What are we?
That's where we'd have to come up with questions. It's funny when we go around the room and I was at Operation Hope down with the theater, you at the theater. I mean, we all have the same thing. Like, how do we get our message out to the public? Nobody knows we exist. They don't know we're not for profit. People don't understand And that's universal, no matter where you go,
Right.
about getting the message out there. So what is the questions you would ask?
So you're thinking surveying the arts community as well as the general public?
I would put it out to,
Actually, it says it has to be open to the general.
yeah, I'd put it out to the general public, just say, what do you guys, one of the things, what do you see as the arts and cultural venues in your area?
That's one of the specifications of to be a
Mhm.
cultural district, you need
Right,
public-
right.
public input. Mhm.
And so that's developing a survey monkey that we don't have to do tonight, but obviously we don't have the rest of the committee here, but it would ask a series of questions that would be easy to do and set it up and get it done, and then we could have feedback after that. And then, like I said, the other thing is just to plan. It could even be in the
And
spring.
your objective is to identify arts organizations that we may not.
Might not have ones that aren't willing to join with us, how do we best serve them?
That's carved from like public access, and so I don't even know that those arts organizations are aware of the fact that we're, putting them on a list, but it's, there was an inventory of arts and cultural assets done a long time ago. And so we used that as the foundation. When we had a Fairfield Arts Council that
Right.
did an inventory. And so we just built on that from public sources, but we could also send it out and ask people, arts organizations that they've interacted with. And I don't know if you're trying to get into like what the role of the arts, what the public
It's
thinks.
just about awareness that we exist and we're just getting our feet on the ground and we're trying to see how we can best serve the community.
So maybe 3 or 4 questions, like, tell us other arts organizations that you interact with. What's your primary role in the community? What are your needs? And what do you think the role of the Arts Commission should
Which it should
how
be.
can we help
Mhm.
you? Something like that, something simple.
Sure.
Okay.
And then would you be open to a summit in the springtime?
And we could put this in Brenda's newsletter,
Right.
and that's
Yeah,
how
we-
people could access.
We
it.
we would build awareness through that. I mean, all the different, like you guys have your own mailing list, we could send it out to. But we can also have it on the website,
Right.
with a link, and then we have so we can put it together, pretty quickly. It's just,
Last month, yeah, so if you get 10-15% of the people respond,
I bet you'll get a lot.
we would hope.
yeah, every time we've done a survey, we've usually get about 1,000 people.
Really,
Had good response.
at least some good feedback to start off with. I mean, those are the two things I had. Just
And if you keep it short,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like,
exactly.
it's not like
We don't have a lot
a
of
20-minute.
Only
Yeah,
those
exactly.
people who'll give you,
There's 2 little pieces of input with that. I was just thinking is, one is like, if we did a summit earlier, like that late January, early February, we can plan on something when people are coming back out for like spring. Be nice to get ahead of that. And the other is, I'm just wondering in addition to people being able to identify certain arts institutions, I'm also just wondering about, people thinking about Fairfield as an arts town. I'd love to just hear feedback on people's association with Fairfield, even versus other towns, Westport or Stanford, because I feel like that's a place where we're already behind in a way where people
Yeah,
don't.
I totally
think about
agree.
Think of it.
Fairfield as an arts town, even though we definitely are relatively.
Well, let me piggyback on that
Yeah.
because that's what I wrote about. Mostly I wrote that I felt obviously what we need to do is get the designation and go through the steps of getting the designation. But beyond that, I feel like we need to cultivate Fairfield's arts pride and fluency. We need to make everybody fluent in what we do, the things that we have in this town, the assets that we have. And, lots of people like to brag about how, our football teams do so well, our little league teams do
Yeah.
so well, but we don't talk about all the amazing arts that we have here. And so I have lots of ideas for how to do that. I won't go into them now, but to me, that was the biggest thing. I feel that our role as the commission beyond the designation should be, which is to, I just
I
call
like
it
it.
That's basically.
what you said.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So maybe that's what you were thinking too.
Yeah, I had a bunch of I did a bunch of research, so I did a bunch of micro ideas that lead to that same.
Right. So I do too as well.
idea. Yeah.
I think, tell me some of your ideas. Let's
So I'll
talk
just
about
hit
some
with
of
some
yours.
quick micro ideas. Well, one thing is you just inspired something when you said people talk about the football team and the various where the sports teams are, how they're doing. So I just made a quick note there of kind of arts competitions that lead somewhere. Like I just thought we have like Billy Collins, the former US poet laureate, speaking November 17th, like a poetry competition with the schools, and whoever the top three are, they get to, present their poem to the beginning of that show or something like that. But that was just spur of the moment based on what you said, kind of piggybacking on like the competitive aspect of the exporting of.
Love the aspect of integrating this with the public school system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like, yeah.
Because the public
Fundamental.
school system here does have great art
They
programs.
do.
Amazing, and music, a music
Music.
program.
We've collaborated with
Yeah,
a couple of projects.
just seeing my own kids, what they get in school.
Yeah.
And then just the theater and the high school.
Yeah,
you know,
it's,
really,
yeah, I know.
um,
But we don't wear that pride. We don't wear that
don't.
pride. And
We don't.
somehow I want to make that happen. I always say to people, we talk about our football teams, but we have an incredible, band, the jazz orchestra, the theater.
we have like professional artists that also live within.
Well, there's
town.
that too. I made a list, right?
Yeah.
And people who are from here and people who live here, exactly.
Exactly.
And can we celebrate them some way and bring people,
I mean,
Yeah,
can we do a
that's-
festival like Westport does?
which one?
New Year's one.
Verso one,
Yeah,
or-
or just something where we can block down the Fairfield Arts District and create, Quick has, like, every theater has a stand and like a performance, the
Yeah.
local,
Mhm.
local
That'd be
artists,
awesome.
local schools, to kind of like pop off the Fairfield Arts Institution and to first start the awareness.
Mhm.
The school, get everyone involved.
So I totally agree with that, but that's a one-time thing. I
Yeah.
was actually thinking along the lines of your banners. I want those banners. Those banners need to showcase our universities they get plenty of attention. But we used to do like the arts program, the
Right.
visual arts for the kids. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Their talent was incredible.
Yeah, I remember.
Some way to use our banners when I,
All that, we have not, and I've held that space over the summer,
okay.
in hopes that maybe we could rejuvenate.
Nice.
Because that used to be what we did over the summer months, was the arts, celebrating the arts in Fairfield with that banner display. It was alternating between professional and amateur artists
Yeah.
through the school system. So it was a good opportunity to do that. And maybe that could piggyback to your idea in terms of doing some kind of festival.
Oh, that
with
kicks
that,
it off,
Yeah,
totally.
exactly.
Which you can then build awareness of some of the
I mean,
existing.
there are lots of other public spaces we could use, like what the Circle is doing with that mural. I love what they're doing with the mural. I don't know who's paying for that, but there are
They
other blank walls in town where, again, making the awareness that art is for anyone and can be anywhere. And you can use visual art, but visual art is how you start that. But that, again, that Fairfield embraces arts and maybe a bumper sticker that actually says that or something clever along those lines so that, we become known as an arts town. And I just want to tell you, Mark, I looked at the new Fairfield website
Mhm.
and the culture page, the image is of the beach.
Yeah, well, you gotta.
So,
You don't know how much effort
know.
we had to go through to
Okay.
just get the
Okay.
website set.
I'm sure you're aware,
Yeah.
but I also
I
want to
hate the fact that we got golf courses everywhere. It's a nice golf course. but
Yeah.
it's-
that's the thing, the message on,
No.
yeah, anyway,
Yeah, so if we have lots of great images, we just haven't got.
okay.
Sorry, just to piggyback on that too, one point I also wrote, I also want to make sure that the arts can serve everyone in town. Cause there's
Yeah,
such a high and a low in this town, and like, if this group can do anything to help the kids and adults who can't usually partake in the arts. I don't know, that's just like a pie in the sky point I put, but having some aspect of making it
accessible
for
to all.
everyone and
Mhm.
accessible.
Are you talking about like socioeconomic?
Yeah.
or- Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's important.
And if this is the cultural arts district, I just want to be sensitive because it's also close to a lot of the wealthier areas of
Yeah.
town, not
Okay.
ignore. I don't know, just getting everyone access and.
Yeah, I
I wanna
agree.
go back to the mural too. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about mural and we've talked to another potential guest speaker to learn more about how they stood up a campaign in Bridgeport. But it requires funding, obviously. And so we have had private property owners,
Yeah.
Ed Gormley, who owns the Circle Inn, and Hi Ho is a big backer of the arts.
You own both? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, along with several investors, but he does that completely on his own. He does a rotating exhibit. And one of the challenges we faced is we didn't have an organization that existed like you. So then people were coming to us and saying, what's the standard? What are their policies and rules? And I had to first go through zoning and basically say, this is not an advertisement, not a sign, it's art. So it's not being regulated. So we got through that issue, but other communities have like policies of some sort dictating, what is appropriate in public spaces. I don't like overly regulatory things myself, but we do get into that even with the banner. Invariably, when we did a banner exhibit, we would get complaints from people who were, one banner maybe was a little edgier than others, and people got everything was all up in an uproar.
You can't
So,
make everybody happy.
It's just, these are just the things that you have to obviously deal with, but I do like, when we're talking about murals, I mean, there are blank walls, and we can talk with public spaces
Private.
and private
Private.
spaces.
Mhm.
It does require some money, so that's one of the things we'd have to raise money for, but just broadening it further, we just did this pocket park down in front of 1720 Post Road, which the university purchased, the Williamsburg style building at the corner next to Starbucks. So there's a tiny little pocket park there that they made some improvements to put in benches
Between,
It's really nice.
in front of this, building next to Starbucks, between,
Cleveland's
no, on the other side,
other side?
between Heritage Square where Bodega is and Starbucks.
Okay, yeah.
There's a little tiny park there. And why I'm
Okay.
saying this
It
is,
looks great. I was.
it does
I
look-
didn't notice.
and I said,
Yeah.
what a wonderful place to maybe do some public art as
Yeah.
part of that. And
Okay.
I know that the group that is working, is looking for another, site within town. My personal favorite is across from, Sunny Days in the Bob's Shopping
Yeah,
Plaza.
that's
That's
what the
also
benches they got over there.
a
Looks
park
nice.
there.
Oh, right.
And other than
And
the
it's
veterans
Change back
display where
there.
they do the flags,
Yes.
it's completely underutilized and just looks, forlorn.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be great to have like a sculpture garden or some kind of
Really
public
cool.
installation as part of what, so I think there are tremendous opportunities, not just in murals, but just incorporating public art.
Yeah, and then when
We
we.
haven't done anything
Yeah,
like
we do the
that.
public art, but then have the kids come and perform at like when we open
Right.
it up.
It would be super.
Mhm.
This is a similar idea. I'm just looking at my list that's kind of on the same page of this. It's like an arts passport for kids, like they get a stamp at every different arts institution they go to is one of them. And
That's a nice
then,
idea.
The
That's a
collect,
great idea.
we can all support it, easily. It wouldn't be very costly thing. And then the other one on that.
What do they get for the passport if they get a certain amount of stamps?
Yeah, that's up for, discussion.
Take us to a show or the.
Ice cream.
Ice
Maybe
cream.
ice cream.
Yeah. I think I can get an ice cream. I think you get some ice cream.
Or the candy store. What's that nice guy?
Yeah, so
Sorry, sweets.
Yeah.
you got that one, you got Sunny Days and 16 Handles. We could try to work with them and some sort of.
Dairy Queen,
Yeah.
it's popular, so yeah.
Yeah, they'll just end up going to all the ice cream. But that'd be nice to tie that in.
Good idea.
The other one is similar, but probably less practical. Some kind of self-guided tour on the app that has like some history, and you go through that. You could spend a Saturday with a family doing this arts tour. And then on the same page of that is like, the Fairfield Moms publish like what's happening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But if there was some guided experience of that where we coordinate with a few of the arts institutions and, Friday, we recommend this, Saturday, this Sunday, where everybody gets,
Yeah.
we push everyone towards everyone, but it's a well-rounded experience
Well, we
for.
do that with-
We
With
can definitely do
experience
that
fair.
now with.
Yeah,
experience.
that's
Need
yeah,
a little bit more help on curating the experience.
yeah.
And
Yeah, that's-
I think too, we've done passports in the past with Restaurant Week, so we have some experience doing something like that. Or bingo cards and things like that, so I love the idea of having an arts passport.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Really cool. I'm not sure who's doing it. Yeah, I can do a little research. And
The other, when you talk about the self-guided tour, we've talked about, a while back, we got a grant from the Connecticut Main Street Center to put together a wayfinding signage plan for downtown or Route 1, pretty much Fairfield from Southport.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, we were never able to get funding to actually proceed
what
with
was it gonna
design and
be?
construction.
What was it?
The idea was really to both through a car as well as a walking experience to connect, you know, make sure that wayfinding system is just to connect people to where they want to go. And you know, we were orienting this to more of a visitor. We have a lot of people from out of town that come. So it would be nice to have some additional signage to make some more coherent sense of, not contribute to sign clutter, but to have a coherent plan that helps with that. But part of that too was we were thinking of creating, you know, at least in the downtown area, a digital kiosk that would serve a couple purposes, provide a map, but maybe also provide a guided tour, a couple guided tours, and then also advertise maybe some upcoming events. And we were thinking initially, you know, like the old fashioned static thing. I was trying to replace that ugly sign on Sherman Green, but to come up with a more modern look of it. And the more I think about it,
Sherman Green.
next to the bus shelter, there's and I don't think there's
Oh,
anything in it,
yeah,
a
that's
glass
right.
case that used to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
like
there's nothing
Parks
in-
and Rec.
Yeah, that's right.
And we took it down to do the parks improvements and somehow they put it back. And I was trying to come up with something different. And like a digital kiosk would be cool, because then you could upgrade it, update it.
Yeah,
But
very cool.
to tie into your
Yeah,
tours. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I like it. I added also, kind of, it was already hinted at in a couple of places, but like the other angle is like this video trailer, like you see that video that Los Angeles did a few months ago, maybe it's years now, where they're branding Los Angeles as a great tourist place, so it's all, you know, all the big movie stars were in it talking about Los Angeles, and it's like, but to have the arts institution and kind of a video that shows the richness of arts in Fairfield, and then like was mentioned, like some of the people who live here who are like, we had a bunch from at the theater on, I won't mention names because we're on a public stream, but there's some well-known people who live in town who could do little, you know, voiceover in it, hopefully. I know they want to contribute to it. And just do a video that's spread in terms of just the richness of arts in Fairfield. And Stephen, I know, could be helpful to that as creative director from Save the Children. I know he's not here today, but we had kind of talked about just perception of Fairfield in that way, and something like that could be effective as well.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean, right now on Experience Fairfield is the video that has the countdown, right, of all the assets. Am I remembering that correctly?
It's on the town's website.
It's the town
Arts and
website.
Cultural
So on
Assets.
Experience Fairfield,
We do have a map there as well.
map, but not a video.
We don't have a video specific to arts, no.
So I looked at Asheville, North Carolina, because they're such an arts town. And they had this really cool overlaid on a beautiful picture of, you know, because they're in the mountains. They had a map that was divided into 4 sections, north, south, east, and west. And when you put the cursor over the east, a window popped up that showed you a video of that area, which each area had a distinct character, and then a map and, you know, assets in each area. And it was so easy, and it laid out, I thought it worked well because we have distinct areas. And I, you know, it was right on their Experience Asheville website. So you might look at that. I looked at a lot of places, you know, arts towns, Northampton and New London and Torrington, and I'm trying to remember where else. I thought Asheville's website was really, really good. Of course, they're totally and not exactly like us, but there might be some things you could learn from them.
They have like national notoriety in a way of like arts.
Being an artsy town, yeah, exactly.
But that's a great model if we, you know, even though it's different.
Yeah, I mean, they wear their arts,
Yeah.
you know, they're not a suburban town, they're an arts town, you know. New London's needs, it's actually, I thought it wasn't bad. The mayor gets up and he talks about how, you know, they have a lot of industry there and they have the river, and he talks about how the town is laid out. I got a very good, even though I don't know New London, I got a good sense of what they offer. But in that video, the mayor does talk about each asset, you know, like the Guard Theater is there. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. And I thought that was interesting. You know, he called out individual, you know, we have too many assets to really
Yeah.
call out each one. But I felt like, for me, I don't know about you guys, I felt like our website is such a window into who we are as a town. You know, that's something, I know that the website is new, but I feel like we gotta make sure that we're representing if this is something that the town really wants, that we are representing ourselves as that arts town that, you know, we wanna be, and that we are, we
Yeah.
undoubtedly are. We just don't show it that much,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
true, you
Well, I'm
know?
glad you're saying that, because I would never think to talk about the town website as like something that's how we're gonna.
Well, Experience
Seriously.
Fairfield does.
But
and
yeah, it
you
should.
know, you have a great calendar, you know, that is constantly updated, and you have buttons for everybody, but the town website. oh,
Yeah, well, so you start with the reason we have an Experience Fairfield website, the Choose Fairfield website, is because the town's website is, you know,
It's gotta achieve a lot.
so you
Yeah.
talk about the audience that you're primarily serving. It's primarily the resident base. It's more inwardly focused
Yes.
on like, how do I pay my taxes, get my garbage
I
picked
just
up
got
and
that.
stuff. So
And every town was like that
Yeah.
too. I mean, Northampton and Asheville, the two really artsy towns. The
we
main,
created a companion site.
like Experience
Right.
Fairfield, but it was very much, you
We can
know,
definitely
right out
research that.
there that,
I mean, that
These
was
are
the
artsy
cool
towns.
project,
Yeah.
because the world is largely virtual now. To have a website that really says what we're trying to communicate could be as effective as some physical event.
yeah, yes, I agree. I agree, Matt. Certainly for people looking to move here, you
Yeah.
know.
Or even people who just moved here, so like.
Well, it's gotta be an authentic self, so it'd be interesting to hear from what the public thinks, like to your
Yeah.
point in the survey.
So-
See, I think that's one of the roles of the commission.
Is to help move, shape perception.
Perception.
I agree, but it'd be
Fluency,
good to have
you
a
know?
starting point.
People need more fluency.
And then you could also test it 5 years out if you're doing a
Yeah.
campaign. To shape perception and attitudes around the arts.
Mhm.
5 years, you have a baseline, 5 years, you survey people again, and you see whether or not we
Made
made
progress.
progress.
I would hope so.
5 years is a good window, yeah.
It was amazing though, when we went to this meeting on the 26th, I was amazed how many people don't have cultural districts.
Oh, you were? Really?
I mean, I knew that there's only a handful of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's.
No, there aren't.
Yeah.
I think it's really just a branding, marketing tool. I mean, I do think that we, unlike maybe some other places, we have just an abundance
An
of
abundance.
arts, cultural organizations.
Mhm.
And so it really does lend itself to creating at least one district, maybe more. But I think that's why, but I think that's part of, you know, marketing who we are
Mhm,
would be helpful in that regard,
mhm.
I think.
Oh, I totally agree.
Well,
As I've told you, you know, with Make
it-
Music Day, we started it, what, 5, 6 years ago, and we're the largest in the state.
Wow.
Of a state that's totally into culture, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, look at that meeting. There were so many towns bragging about all the things that they do. You know, so I don't know. I think, I think we have so much, we have a long way to go. I think, you know, changing perception. Yeah.
The visual component, like the video and that would be. a
Yeah.
big
I
deal,
think to your
yeah.
point, what are they, like a tagline, something
Mhm.
snappy, like getting on the
Yeah,
bar,
that's-
you know,
yeah.
and.
Like make Austin weird or keep Austin
Yeah,
weird,
exactly.
something like that.
That effect.
I like this, how we're talking about like the big picture of arts here, because it's also easy. I heard in that big meeting, like, there's a lot of particular arts institutions that are advocating for very specific things for their own needs, which is important. I'm sure a lot of it is, you know, universal, but just thinking this way about things that benefit everyone, I just like that we're all thinking like that. I hope we can stay in that space with
Well,
it.
you want kids, I feel like I want kids to grow up here thinking, oh, I live in a really cool town,
Exactly.
right? I grew up in a cool town.
Yeah.
You know, some of my kids feel that way.
Not,
Yeah, yeah.
But Fairfield's changed. I've been here 23 years. Fairfield's changed so much,
It's a lot, yeah.
so much
When I first moved, everybody used to go to Westport for nightlife. Now they come here.
Yeah.
It's a complete 180.
completely.
It definitely wasn't thought of as a cool town when I was growing up here.
No.
I can say, but it's changed so much.
A
so.
lot driven by the universities, I think.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
Yeah,
like you guys,
absolutely.
yeah.
Did everybody get their bullet points across? I think so. I think it's good we have a smaller group because it was easier to like
Yeah,
digest all this.
I have more little ideas, but we covered the essence, so there's no need.
I would like to hear from another town. I think Torrington, I actually looked at Torrington's site. They have a decent site. And I would love to. hear
And you
from
know, what was interesting was she was talking about their trials and tribulations, like, you know, commission members got frustrated because they weren't moving fast enough. People, there was turnover on the board, and trying to figure out, you know, I mean, it was like the same conversation we've been struggling with in a couple of meetings. But it was just interesting to get that perspective. So I think, you know, it's not all like sugarcoating, like look at us, we're doing a great job. It's part of the process, and how you get there too is helpful.
Well, I think we have to identify as we're doing what we want to achieve beyond,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
We just got here and, you know, what do we want to do?
There's so many great ideas that came out here tonight, though, I gotta admit, and, you know, although you talked about funding, what is our next avenue for funding? I know we only have that one grant put in.
Yeah, we got
Oh, yeah,
a
for sure.
note back from them saying, we have yours, it's taken us a little while to take a look at your applications. We don't have a decision yet, but we only put in for like $1,000 as a placeholder. It's really not, you're not gonna get big money out of that. I think ultimately what will drive our funding request is, you know, what we're planning to do with it, obviously. So if we have a particular program, activity, event, thing that we're trying to do, a campaign, then that's gonna inform our, you know, part of it's going through the normal budget process, now that we're our commission. You know, putting in a request for town dollars, but I think there'll be an aspect of probably raising some outside dollars as well.
How much does it cost when you did the banners? Like
Banners are cheap.
Oh.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I think what we'd have to do, I can get a budget together pretty quickly for that, yeah.
I was just thinking.
But I think, you know, what happens with Norma Freem, for example, is they get a sponsor, they get a signature sponsor, the sponsor of the whole series to cover the cost. You know, the Arts Council was a membership driven group too. You know, they had like $50 for annual dues. I don't know what you know, I'm a member of the Cultural Alliance, so I get their newsletter for $100, you know, so I don't know, there's a couple different models I suppose we could use, but.
I mean, if we're crowdsourcing information, is crowdfunding something we can do?
Really? Can we as a public organization? I don't think so.
Well,
Feels
I
wrong.
wouldn't say that it would be a little unconventional,
Yeah.
but I won't know that there's anything that would preclude us from doing
Even-
that.
I feel like if we had a great idea
Yeah.
and we needed some funding.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like we start a dialogue with the community
Yeah.
through the Survey Monkey.
Yep.
And to the point of, you know, getting a snappy copy line, okay, instead of going to paying advertising.
No.
Put it out there to the community.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're trying to come up with, you know, a contest,
Yeah.
right? You know, a snappy line to represent FTC as the arts town in Fairfield County. Help us out. Can you submissions available and see what we get? You never know.
Can't hurt.
Yeah.
Never know. You're not guaranteeing that, you know, you're gonna pick somebody, but you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and from this, I think, you know, we've got a lot of, I don't know, pages, things that you guys suggested, so we'd probably go through and cull that a little bit and prioritize, and then once
Sure,
we
yeah.
focus on one or two things that we wanna focus on the first year, then, you know, we can raise money around it.
Do we have to have the cultural district designated before we can try and do some of these other things?
I don't think so. I don't think that, you know, when members were interested in creating an arts cultural district, and by virtue of that, an arts commission, you know, I was trying to, again, have them think more broadly. I mean, it's not that an arts and culture district is not the be all end all, and like you create the district, we're done, you know, it's an ongoing thing. Hopefully we have a larger role than that in terms of cultivating arts pride and fluency. I love that.
Yes.
So, I think that
It's
should
a
be.
good line.
It is.
Or something. I gotta read that.
Pride and fluency. I wrote that one down.
Well, look, the town's changed. I think that's one way we put it, is the town's changed, and it's great that we now have this commission to, you know, sort of help facilitate even more, recognize the assets that we have and bring them, you know, really you know, show them at their best and, you know,
Some of these things are, you know, doing for example, a passport for kids or even a video, we can probably pull together enough resources
Yeah.
internally, put
Yeah.
that together.
Yeah.
Some of these, you know, when I talked to Bridgeport about their mural campaign, again, that was a pretty big one, that they had a lot of different locations, but that was,
who funded it?
the city.
The city did,
And
so
I
they
think
got a
what
grant,
the city did was get a grant.
yeah.
Yeah, or had some dollars that they could program for, and it was pretty significant. You know, they were paying the artists a reasonable wage to do the work. And it was like, you know, $50,000-$60,000, something like that, but you know,
And Ed Gormley is who owns, is that?
Ed Gormley
is he
owns,
Randy Gormley's husband?
I don't know his wife.
So interesting.
His work, he does real estate development.
Okay, okay,
But he would be another person to talk to.
sure.
Cause he seemed he did this completely on his own. He just loves, you know, he wanted to do something with the arts and can we do this? I was like, yes, go ahead. please." So there's a few people like that would.
Well, and I also think, you know, today I was riding my bike in preparation and trying to think of other spaces where public spaces that we could use to host art, visual art, just because that's what space does. And the fire hydrant people who paint all the fire hydrants,
yeah.
right?
It's one woman I used to.
That was from.
One woman, but did she get permission to do that?
Yes.
She did. Okay, I'm just wondering how it works. But what about the street poles? Right, the poles then you have this green street sign, and what about the poles? Could those be a surface we could do art on?
The poles on which the street signs.
Yeah.
exist.
Just trying to think of, you know, again, just thinking out of the
So
box here.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to work with town or municipal assets as opposed to like the utility companies, like.
Right, I know we couldn't
Punch
use for
utility.
telephone
Yeah.
poles.
And, you know, I've had conversations with DOT about the I-95 underpasses and things like that, and it is possible
I
to
hadn't
do
even
it.
thought about that.
Yeah, it is possible to do it, but it's, you know, to go through the proper channels to get permission for these things is like mind.
That's such a gateway to our town.
It is.
Right.
And it's just such wasted space. Of
Yeah.
course, right now you would need to improve the lighting in order for it to be appreciated.
Clean up the
But I-
pigeons.
But I've seen that, like, I was up in Newtown. And Newtown has like an underpass and they have a mural on the side. That's, but it was something I thought of as well.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's.
Well, I was looking for blank walls. that need
Yeah.
covered.
No, me too, right.
But you know, the one that's private property is where you know, Steve Warren, Fairfield Center is shopping. Where the bank used to be and now it's T-Mobile on the side going up Beach Road, there's this blank wall. I
Yeah.
was thinking, what a great spot to do something that would celebrate the arts.
But if we identified as a commission spaces that we're
Yeah.
interested in and then formally went to the
Property owners.
property owners, utilities, a separate item,
Yeah.
but what if we'd like to make a proposal to you,
Yeah.
you
And I
know?
think what happened in Bridgeport is they just got their permission and they had a little bit of input in terms of like the theme. But they didn't dictate it, and I think they also didn't, I mean, some of them contributed a little bit of money towards it, but otherwise they weren't asked to like pay for it themselves, but. I think, you know, having somebody that's done it, like normally at the Circle Inn,
Mhm.
would be a helpful, just to say, you know, why it's.
Well, and how did he find his artists? Do you know?
I don't know, he
Levis
cast
was
it,
one
I
of
think
them.
it was one, she was the first, I think.
Yeah, she was, yeah, she's in the video.
he finds them, and he just does it. so,
Right.
yeah.
And to give those private property owners the way helpful hints on how to get it done, or how can we help you facilitate?
Right, but something like that obviously makes a big visual impression.
Yeah.
Totally.
And really changes the
Increases profit.
conversation and people think about, oh, well, who did that? The Arts Commission, did, you know. So
What are
it's,
these
Seen,
names?
Oh, yeah, Jennings.
there's a lot of, I mean.
Where
just-
are you
It's
thinking?
there.
Just like, you know, Jennings, as you walk in up into the beach, that whole white space. in the
Oh,
building.
oh, yeah, the
And
building,
everyone's parked there, 'cause
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you get
yeah.
a lot of outside.
fabulous, that'd be fabulous.
Just, you know, admiring people have done it kind of as, And again, I'm not trying to call attention to it with advertising, but like Sunny Days has done a
Mhm.
mural in the back of their building, 203 over in Grassmere's done something as well, celebrating Fairfield. So there's a little example.
What were all those cows about? Remember that?
Sunny days?
Yeah.
No,
They
they
were
were,
all over town for a
Yeah.
while.
Oh, I don't think we've ever done it here, but Cows on Parade was a big deal.
all across the
Time ago.
country.
Chicago started it, and then they've done, other places done, lighthouses and other
Okay.
penguins and moose. I was up in Vermont, they had moose
Yeah.
on parade.
Yep.
So it's kind of run its course, it seems, but
Okay.
I haven't seen as much of it recently. But something like that would be cool too.
Again, I don't know who funded that.
I'm sure like a lot of things, it's like sponsored by local businesses and other organizations that sponsor a spot. You have a fee associated with that and you have somebody, decorated.
Somebody's moving those cows around though. From town to town. The cows go from town to town. They get moved.
I went to this tiny lake town this summer and they had just like a competition with every single business and it was just like this big of like old school painters, I don't know what you call that thing. And they'd have a local artist design it for their business and then everyone votes on it and stuff. So it's a way to get local artists from around that area and local businesses involved. You know,
So
I just
when
think about
you-
Main Street. It was like, they basically just displayed, they all got, the one little wood, like, and the painting, it's like 5 different colors. I don't know what
Right.
that's called.
Yeah,
The palette.
Okay.
And so it was like everyone had the same palette and they invited local artists to do one representing their business or just trying to make it the splash. And then it was a competition
Wow. And then they displayed it where?
outside their local businesses.
Oh, that's-
Decorating a palette, like
Yeah.
an art palette,
An art palette.
different.
Everything was different, like from moons and stars to abstract to sunflowers. I don't know, it was a way to engage.
Very cool. When we moved here, I live in Southport, Spick and Span, Gregory Peck, who owns it, he would let the kids come and paint a window pane before Halloween, and each kid got a window pane and a marker, and they could create whatever image. He has stopped doing that, but it was so great. I don't know why Greg doesn't do it anymore.
What kind of place is this?
Spick and Span, Spick and Span in Southport, the little deli.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Right in the middle of town, when you're driving into, the horseshoes on the left,
Okay.
or the horseshoe, the Spick and Span and the driftwood. And it's an old, like these panes, each
Yeah.
kid would get a window pane and they could,
Yeah, that's really.
it was such a great thing to do, to get the kids involved.
We've been working with the Greenfield Hill Commons, the merchants up there, and they're doing a scarecrow festival right now. But they've also talked about doing some other art related type projects, so there might be a connection.
Yeah.
That's-
Mhm.
Oftentimes we get, oh, you're always doing stuff downtown. What about?
Right.
So we've been trying to work with other, and do something a little different that would define their neighborhood commercial district a little bit differently than what's happening elsewhere. So, but there's opportunities for sure to do that collaboration with businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to find the artist. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not-
or it could be the student artist, it
Or
could
it could
be
be the student
anyone,
students.
everyone, it could be a stay-at-home
Right.
mom who
Right.
likes to paint,
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone can be an artist.
Yeah.
Just remind me, this is a totally different angle, but this just is reminding me about that. It's like professional education for artists. That's something that largely doesn't exist in terms of like in just a normal educational path for a student here, like to encounter professional artists and learn about what it takes to be a professional artist. That would be a nice
So connecting kids with an interest in arts with professionals.
yeah, or just making that a normal, I mean, there's, in terms of like the what do you want to be when you grow up dialogue, to have some arts pipeline for that, just speaking to kids about careers in the arts. I just know that's something that I haven't seen much of in the area.
You mean, not just visual arts, every kind.
Every kind of arts, just like what does that mean as a career, and is it a viable career, and how do you do it? I know that's saying growing up here, nobody showed me, and
To have a forum, 1-day forum.
Yeah.
Kids in high school and have an example of.
I thought when you were talking, initially you were going like, for actually practicing artists to do, to help hone their skills, like further their education. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was I know that part of what the Fairfield Arts Council did at one point, I guess, was try to provide some business savvy or education to artists. So oftentimes they've got the creative aspect, but
Yeah, very much
they're
so.
very sometimes they're challenged to actually market themselves or make a profitable business out of it. So I think they were trying to provide more of the business skills to artists, practicing
I
artists.
think it's important to just to, if we're, part of our mission is to have the arts thrive here, to have some kind of, just, I noticed, where I live, there's not a lot of professional artists in my neighborhood per se, so it's like, it's just nice to have that represented as an option and some kind of development and support for aspiring artists.
Are you sure that there aren't artists?
No, I'm not sure. But everyone she's met on my block is, it's not really.
Aside from you?
Yeah, it's a
You
strange.
intimidate everybody.
I'm the only one coming in at 1 AM is the. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it does seem like it's not a, given different tracks for kids to go on from high school. It's nice to show that as a viable, career.
Mhm.
That's all.
I just say that because right down the block, right at Southport, at the old train station behind the Chase
Oh, yeah.
Bank is Jerry Huerta. Do you know who Jerry Huerta is?
Yeah.
You know who Jerry, yeah, see, nobody knows. And he rents it out from the parking commission. I
Right.
think he's the tenant. He's been there 4 years. He's the guy that designed the AC/DC logo. And among other things, he's an amazing graphic artist. A lot of his stuff is in MoMA and other museums.
Yeah.
It's right here in Southport. You never know.
You never-
So,
yeah. Well,
and you don't think
maybe-
Southport, you think AC/DC. You don't think that.
But finding those artists who like those.
Exactly.
that's the other part,
Finding
it all connects there and find them and like for that kind of video to have someone like that.
Right, to have Jerry talk.
Is really
It's
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I never thought of who was the person who made the AC/DC.
Yeah, you
That's
know, but-
amazing.
I think we covered enough of the open discussion. for
Yeah.
now.
Sorry,
Yeah,
we could go on for a long
Good
time.
job.
Probably.
Really quick meeting. My wife's gonna pick me up. I can't try.
Okay, well,
Tell you another 10 minutes. New business.
In
I
business.
think that's it.
I think we're-
the arts and economic prosperity
I saw that.
report came out. There's-
255 million.
Yeah, so, we oftentimes get asked, what's the impact of arts and cultural organizations in terms of, economics, development, impact from a dollar and cent standpoint. So it's what's really cool is the arts organization. Right here, Americans for the Arts.
Mhm.
They have a calculator on there, and I've used that before. Even for FTC, when they asked, what's the economic impact of FTC, I plugged in some of the information and I spitted it out, and they've used it for the grant.
Yes, we have, yeah, many times.
So, and that was like, 5 reports ago, so I'm sure that they're like on top of it, but it's impressive, and I know they just rolled it out nationally, and I know the regional groups are also doing it as well in terms of building awareness for not just.
It's an economic driver. The arts is an economic driver. So clear. So did we approve the minutes? Can we do that?
We cannot
Yeah.
approve minutes.
We're doing both next month.
Okay.
Louis just anxious to,
No, I just,
they
I
look
don't,
awesome to me, so.
that's,
Yeah, you did a great job.
just didn't know what we can do.
Yeah, we just couldn't vote on anything.
Sure.
Like we decided when I was a Survey Monkey, we had to have a vote on it. We couldn't do that.
Okay. So next month. And-
Well,
It's gotta be an avenue, because I only heard from the 2 people. I'd have to reach out to people and find out whether or not.
Yeah, you guys all got the notice, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, everybody knew we said third.
Have it in my book. So the next one is November 21st, the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we okay with that, or is that a bad?
I'd rather do it the 28th, to be quite honest with you. But it's okay. I'll do whatever. It's an hour-long meeting. It's not that big a deal.
Gives us enough time if we had to change it, the website.
Question is whether people will be here. Well,
What we
some
could
people will be
do
traveling.
Is I could survey all the members.
See
and
what-
ask
yeah, see what the
between
caucus, if it could be
dates,
there.
Which would be.
Since we had such a poor showing in October, we want to make sure that we have a better showing in November.
Well, that's funny, because when we had the first vote, everybody said they want to do it for 12 months in the year. I said, okay, we'll see how that goes. historically in the summertime that you don't,
The
you'll sit here like this.
Yeah.
We can't do a meeting. We do 15 minutes, we go home.
But that is Thanksgiving week, and we have the Stones movie that night at MTC.
I have a residency that night too, 28% better for me.
Okay, for you too?
Whatever is good for the group.
But that gives you enough time to put out a notice to asking if you can change it.
Yeah.
To the alternative of 11/28.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no,
You
no
know,
big,
town
deal.
clerk
It's
notice.
no big deal. I just, instead of a regular meeting, it's a special meeting. It's the same thing, so you can do
We just have to make sure this room is free?
yeah, I'll check that,
Okay.
but I don't think that should be a problem. And hopefully the computer control system will work. That's
You did fine.
Make me all stressed out when I get
Well, it
here.
can work.
We couldn't get it on.
When I got an error message, call IT.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
I kept pushing buttons until it finally.
It was all smooth.
So,
It's only probably that time thing. You didn't kick on until.
I really
6 o'clock.
appreciate it. That's how I did the minutes, is I rewatched the whole meeting.
Yeah,
Could
yeah.
reverse and go forward.
Right, yeah.
So it's great.
so hopefully.
Anything else other new business?
No, hopefully.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Katie, Matt.
7:02. 7:02 adjourn.